Yes, hello there and welcome to today's episode of Weekend Rewind. Yes, this is when we put our hands back into the Join Up Dots vaults, swirl it around a bit and find an episode that maybe has got lost in the midst of time. And this is in response to the amount of requests we get from people who say, David, with all the episodes you've released, where should we start? Well, it's very hard to find a place, so we're just going to randomly pick one, and this is today's episode. Enjoy.
When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Yes, hello everybody, it's David Ralph. Of course it is, it's Join Up Dots, episode 358, and this is what I'm going to call the hustle show, because we've got a gentleman on the show today who's really demonstrating hustle at a high level, and we're going to see what kind of momentum he's bringing into his life, because he is a man who has started really making momentum in his life in the simplest of ways. Now, he heard a quote that we've heard so many times in life, and more than once on Join Up Dots. And this time, he was ready for the message. And that's a key thing. We hear these quotes all the time, but every now and again, they speak to us. At the beginning of 2014, he heard Jim Rohns' famous quote, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with," and found that this quote would transform his life. Since then, he's focused on doing just that, surrounding himself with people who are where he wants to be in 10 to 15 years. And as he says, what a difference it has made. And in just 12 months, he has since seen his income slashed by 40%. But being surrounded by the wrong people, he's transitioned to a place where he can now get directly advised by the CEOs of major companies. And these are guys that are rocking and rolling and really doing amazing stuff, such as the CEO of the sports agency the movie Jerry Maguire was based on, the founder of the Make-A-Wish Foundation, to name just 2. But the great thing about this is that this isn't the guy who has all the time in the world, because he's still in his full-time gig. He's transitioning to where he wants to be. So how has he found the time to do this? How has he managed to get all of this done and still manage to hold down his job? Well, let's find out as we bring onto the show to start joining up dots with the one and only Mr. Geoff Woods. How are you, Geoff?
I'm awesome, David. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. It's very early in your world, I imagine. Do you bound out of bed feeling awesome, or are you in podcasting awesome?
I always feel awesome.
Is there ever a time when you kind of lay there and think to yourself, life could be better, or are you really on the ball all the time?
Well, life can always be better.
So how can
it can always get better?
So how can you always be awesome, Geoff? You see, I'm starting to become critical already. How can you already be awesome if life can already get better?
Because I always believe there's room for improvement. You can always stretch. Why not?
Yeah, of course you can. Of course you can. So what is the time out there? Because I know that you have got up very early to be on the show, because you are a man that is making the most of your time.
Yeah, it's 5:45 a.m. right now.
And you normally get up that time? Are you an early riser?
I am now. Ever since starting doing my own podcast and starting a business on the side, you have to.
So let's talk about that, because on this show we don't talk about the leap of faith, because the leap of faith is too dramatic for so many people, certainly for our listeners. And what we talk about is the slide of faith, that transition where you start working towards something while you're currently in your job. And when you came through to the show, that was the thing that sort of really appealed to me, that you weren't somebody that has leapt, but you're building towards something. Do you look at yourself now and think to yourself, wow, I have actually got more time in my life than I imagined? I'm actually finding time that I never thought was possible maybe a couple of years ago.
Absolutely. And it really became obvious to me as I started to surround myself with people who are where I wanted to be in 10 to 15 years. You all heard a few of the people that I now have in my court. One guy, his name's Dave Meltzer, and he's the one who is the CEO of the sports agency Jerry Maguire is based on. This guy, I look at what he does in a day, He has a family, 4 children. He's up every morning between 3:30 and 4 a.m. He's at the gym. He meditates for a half hour. He writes a chapter for one of his upcoming books. He goes to work. He runs a company. And then he travels the world speaking. He writes 3 books a year. And he still has time to meet with me once a week. I mean, this guy is getting so much more done in a day than I am. So if he can do it, why can't I? Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And I know the answer. After having these conversations for nearly 400 days on the road, I know the reason is that he's not doing stuff, he's doing the right stuff. He's doing the stuff that brings maximum value and takes the least time.
Boom, you nailed it. Wow.
And it's one of those things that I always used to think that I was doing the right things. But when you talk to these guys, you realize, no, you're not. You just think you are. You think that by going onto social media and tweeting and promoting and doing all those kind of things, you are doing the right stuff. I had a guy the other day, Geoff, who said to me, everything you do in life, think about it as dominoes. One domino is going to topple 1,000 dominoes. So try to find your domino. And it's hard to do because you get so wrapped up and you can't see the trees for the woods, you know. But if you actually find your one domino, you can do that, get maximum effect from everything, and lead a life that you would want. And I think Dave Meltzer, if that was what his name was, I think he's found his domino.
Sure has. Absolutely.
So are you aware of your own domino? Because obviously you're on this transition, you're moving towards things. Do you see things already that you think to yourself, yes, that is going to take me forward? Or are you like most of us, where we're just trying to do stuff, trying to get things going, trying to see what works?
You know, I've had the domino keeps shifting, but I've always had a domino, if you will. When I'll give the audience a little background on me. My day job is medical device sales. So every day I'm in scrubs, I'm running through hospitals, and I feel blessed to say that I sell a device that actually saves lives, which is really cool. And I thought this was going to be the thing I was going to do forever. I love my job, and it's afforded a wonderful lifestyle. But at the end of 2013, something happened. I witnessed, or not witnessed, but one of my colleagues at 35 years old had a stroke. And luckily he survived, but that really rocked me to my core. Because here I am thinking, all right, I've got a good job that I enjoy, wife, baby, own our home in Southern California, life is good. But what would happen if something happened to me and I could no longer work, or God forbid, I passed away? What would happen to my family? And I didn't like the answer that came to my mind. I didn't know how my family would survive. And the very next week, while I'm still pondering this, another thing happened. My company made a change to my commission structure, and overnight my income was slashed by 40%. 40. So take those two together, and you start to take a real inventory of your life. And that was the moment where I just said, enough's enough. I have to start building passive income. I'm not talking about quitting my job. I love my job, but I need to have passive income. I need to be in control of my destiny, and no company should ever have the power over my lifestyle like I realized I was in that situation right just there. Does that make sense, David?
It makes total sense. And I think most of our listeners out there are sort of working on shifting sand most of the time, where their jobs, you know, I started my career back in 85, and it literally was, you could go into a job and you'd expect there to be 40 years unless you decide to do something else. It's not the same any day. And it leads on to one of our questions that we pose so many times on the show is, what is the risky route? Is it trying to create your own income, or is it working for someone? Well, what do you think, Geoff?
Well, I think if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. I think society would say that, hey, starting something on your own is risky because most businesses fail. I challenge that. I think if you start a business the right way and build passive income the right way, it's not risky because, like you said, it's a transition. It's not you cut your job cold turkey and just quit and start your own thing. I mean, maybe that works for you if you've got something, and if that's you, power to you. But for me, I want to make a safe transition because I have a good job. I think it's risky to not build passive income. You can't afford to not do it. Because what happens if you have some type of medical injury where all of a sudden you can no longer work? How are you going to pay the bills? What's going to happen to your family? What happens if something happens to you and you're not here anymore? What happens to your family? Ask yourself that. You can't afford to not start building passive income. And it's just unfortunate that these are not the things that are taught in school. And this is what keeps me up at night. And really what I want to wake up and trade my life for every day is teaching people to do this.
So for the listeners out there, Geoff, that are hearing you talk about passive income, but they're not sure what that is, give us an understanding of what that means.
Thank you. Passive income is the idea that you have income coming in from your businesses and investments passively, meaning you don't do anything. They just come month after month, and you're financially free when you have enough passive income coming in every month to pay for your lifestyle. So for example, if you own some real estate and you have rental income and you make profit on that every single month, that is passive income. If you have an info product or an online course like David is going to be coming out with, and people sign up for it, and he has a system in place to the point where he can take the orders and fulfill it automatically, that is passive income. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense to me. Now, with the listeners, the thing that they need to know is there are certain passive incomes that are risky, and there's certain passive incomes where the risk is only effort, that you have to build things. And on the online world, it's quite easy to build passive income by building a website, directing a bit of traffic, and taking your percentage, basically. And if you look at Amazon, that is the greatest way that you can describe passive income, isn't it? The Amazon's pretty much based around other people selling their products, and they're going into their Amazon beds at night and waking up having Amazon millions coming their way. And they haven't actually done anything. They've just provided a platform for people to sell their products.
Sure. And let me give your listeners one tip right now. If you go and you Google Amazon affiliate program, you can create an affiliate account where it creates a custom link. And what you can do is you can have your friends, when they go onto Amazon, instead of going to Amazon.com, they would click on your link. That still takes them to Amazon.com, but when they buy anything on Amazon within a certain time window, after clicking on that original link, you get a commission.
And you can actually set that up, and you can actually buy your own stuff. If you go on to Join Up Dots, you'll see at the bottom of most of the pages there's some kind of product that's linked to the guest, and most of the time it is through Amazon. Now, that is my actual link. That's my affiliate link. That is where I make a certain amount of commission on a monthly basis by people, my listeners, buying the products that they hear on the show. Now, we don't push it big time, but if a guest comes along that I like the look of as well, I can click on that link and I actually make some money even though I get the book as well, which is brilliant.
Yep, absolutely. So there's one idea for you.
Yeah. So passive income, obviously it's the way forward, but you are creating a podcast, the Mentee, and if anybody knows about podcasts, they are probably one of the hardest ways to build passive income into your life quickly. You really actually have to work consistently to build up an audience into a sort of a valuable commission coming to your way. Why have you decided to do that? Why have you stepped behind the microphone and decided to be a podcaster?
The reason I decided to start the Mentee is because I needed to start paying it forward. Once I realized it was time to start building passive income and I was ready to take action, I heard the Jim Rohns quote that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I took I took inventory of who those people were in my life. Who are those 5 people in your life? It could be your significant other, it could be a family member, it could be your neighbor, but who are those 5 people in your life? And I bet if you were to add up their incomes and divide by 5, it'd come pretty close to what you make right now. And I bet if you were to take a survey of their mindset, you'd probably find out that you think the same too. And I looked at my 5 and I realized, that's absolutely true. But I have some pretty big dreams. And if I want to achieve them, that domino, if you will, is going to be surrounding myself with people who are where I want to be in 10 to 15 years. And so I set out on this mission just to form meaningful relationships with people who are where I want to be. That simple. And you fast forward 8 months, all of a sudden, one of my friends looks at me and says, dude, look at who you have in your life. How are you meeting these people? How are they pouring into you? Look at the relationships you've built. You need to do a podcast. And I went, oh my gosh, you are right. My life has accelerated so fast in 8 months because I surrounded myself with the right people. What if I were to press record on those conversations I'm already having? What if I were to press record on the conversations that are fundamentally changing my life so that other people can hopefully have their lives changed and affected as well? And that's why I launched the Mentee. It was out of a sense of duty and obligation to really pay it forward and help others accelerate just as much as I had. Does that make sense, David?
It makes total sense. It does make total sense. And as you're saying now, I'm pondering on the Jim Rohn quote, because I was speaking to Mr. Carl Wilson the other day, who was Jim Rohn's business partner, and so for 18 years worked with Jim. And the question that I never got round to asking him, and it's kind of occurred to me now, is you are the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. How did he find that out? Was it just a figure that he came up with? Because it seems to work. But obviously he might have looked at a small percentage, and you look at the other percentage and it's not the same. It's fascinating, but when you look at yourself, and this goes out to the listeners as well, when you look at your close friends, you will see that more often than not, you dress slightly like them, you act like them, you have the same conversations, and your income is being held in check by that personal belief you get from looking around you. And those 5 people, if you put yourself into a position of 4 other millionaires, you will become the 5th one. And it's proven time and time again. But I wonder how he found that out. What do you reckon, Geoff?
It could have been either A, he's heard some version of it before. I heard from one of my mentors that at this point, I don't know that there are necessarily any new phrases or ideas, just same concepts being remixed over and over again, so I'm sure that had something to do with it. And then it could have just been one of those things that all of a sudden he woke up and he went, hey, look at that. Maybe this is true. And then he went and he started looking at it and realized, yeah, it holds true.
So when your friend says to you, look at the connections you've made, do you kind of go, yeah, pretty good? Or do you actually go, yeah, actually pretty good. Wow, I'm looking over my shoulder, I'm joining up my dots, and I can't believe what's occurred?
It's definitely the second one. And it's 100% from a place of gratitude. I feel so blessed to have these people in my life. I am so grateful that they pour into me on a consistent basis. It brings me to tears at times, because the value and how much it means. And that's really why I'm doing everything that I'm doing, because I've learned that everyone can go out and upgrade their inner circle. Everybody can go out and find a mentor who is someone they really at this point feel is out of their reach. And I'm here to tell you, reach high. You can absolutely go out there and find a mentor who is at the top of their game in your area of interest. And you're worth it. You have value. I know you may not think you have value right now. There's no reason for a major CEO to pour into you. I get that. I'm telling you there is. Because I've point blank asked these guys, why are you talking to me? Why are you investing time into me? And the answer that they have shared with me is, at one point in their life, there was someone who was light years ahead of them, who reached back and grabbed their hand and helped pull them forward and help them navigate their life and their business. And that's why they got to where they are today. And the one thing that mentor asked for in return was that one day they pay it forward and do the same.
It is fascinating because it is a mindset, isn't it? When you are, a listener and you're in your cubicle, you're on the train or wherever you're listening to these episodes, you will think, no, they're not going to, they're too busy. Why would they want to respond to me? But one of the greatest times you can actually reach out to anyone is when you leave college and you haven't got any money. That shows pure hustle. And a lot of the big guys, the big cheeses out there, will respond to you. And it's been a complete mindset shift. When I started this show, I literally had that mindset of, how the hell am I going to do this? Why would anyone talk to me? I haven't even got a show. I'm just selling them the prospect of a show, the ideal of a show. And now, nearly 400 episodes later, I'm still sort of moving along. So how do people overcome that mindset when they think to themselves, why? Why would they? Just like you did, and just like you asked that question recently.
I'm so glad you asked that. I've really put an intention behind interacting with a lot of my podcast listeners over the phone to learn about them and hear about their challenges and see how I can serve them best. And they've asked me to develop a course showing them how to go out and find heavy hitting mentors. But the first module they all want is mindset, because they all ask this question: how do you get through this? How do you break through this wall? And this is the importance of being hypercritical about who you surround yourself with. Because if you start surrounding yourself, I mean, you're listening to David and I talk, and we're on the same page here. Imagine if your 5 people were David and me, where we're looking at you going, of course you have value. Of course they're willing to talk to you. After hearing that a few times, it's going to start to sink into your subconscious mind, and you're going to start to believe it. And we'll keep reinforcing it. And at that point, it starts to sink into the unconscious mind, at which point it just is. You just believe it. So that's the power of surrounding yourself with the right people and being really aware of what information you allow to come into your mind. But clearly, you're the type of person who wants to advance their life. Clearly, you're hungry. And so I'm here right now to tell you, you matter. That there is a reason these people want to talk to you. You have value, and you can add value to them, even though it seems like these people could be light years ahead of you. You can add value to them. Because let me tell you, as much value as I get from my mentors, I get way more value from mentoring others. Giving and developing others is truly the thing that just fills my soul. That's why I do my podcast. That's why I'm building this course for the listeners.
So what do you give back to your mentees, these guys, these CEOs? I think that's the key question to the listener. The listener will be thinking, what can I give back? I can see it from one way, because they're ahead of the curve, they've done it. But what is Geoff giving to them?
When a mentor invests in you, when they invest their time in you, they are making an investment. And we invest to get a return on our investment. In the mentor-mentee relationship, that return on investment comes in the form of you making progress and you succeeding. So when my mentors pour into me, one of the ways I add value back to them is that I will say, hey, Dave, 2 weeks ago, you and I were talking, and I was sharing how I was a little down in the dumps and how this was happening with my wife, or this was happening in my business. And you told me that I needed to get out of my own way. You told me that my ego was clouding my judgment and that I needed to get out of my own way. And here's what I did. I did X, Y, and Z, and these were the results. I want you to know how much I appreciate it, and I want you to know how much it means to me that you're in my life, because I'm accelerating rapidly, and it's a lot of it has to do with you. So thank you so much.
So it's the emotional element that you provide back. It's confirmation that their time is being spent wisely.
Absolutely. And so many times I will be with one of my mentors and I'll be sharing a progress update, I call them, and I'll see them tear up. These are heavy hitters. These are people who are so far ahead of me, who have accomplished so much. But at the end of the day, we're both people. We're both two human beings, and we have certain needs, and one is the need for an emotional connection. And in those moments, that connection is so strong, and they feel it, and it's so rewarding for them, and it's so rewarding for me. So I'm telling you, you have value. And the other thing is, you add value by when they teach you, they start working their thoughts out. They develop and they progress as well as they teach. So you add value as being the student. There's tremendous value there.
That's the key thing, isn't it? You learn what you teach. And more often than not on this show, I will be saying stuff, and as it's actually coming out of my mouth, something in my mind goes, oh, that's interesting. Why haven't I ever thought of that before? And it's almost like you're channeling some kind of energy or whatever. I know that sounds a bit hokey, but it's your subconscious, and it's your subconscious bringing to the fore something that maybe has been buzzing around you for ages and ages and ages, and it's just when you have one of these conversations, the penny drops and away you go, and it can really provide rocket power to you and fly you forward, can't it?
Absolutely.
So let's play some words now, all about taking action and moving on in your life. This is something that Jim Carrey said recently, and I love bringing this onto the show, so this is Jim.
My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant, and when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job, and our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love.
Powerful words?
I love it. Like I said earlier, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. And what Jim just talked about right there changed the way that I looked at his situation. We all have heard about those safe jobs. But what they don't tell you about is what happens when the company goes under, or what happens when they have to do layoffs and all of a sudden you're in a bad position. My wife was telling me last night, one of our friends, he bartends at a bar, and all of a sudden the bar just closed down. They gave everybody 48 hours notice that the bar was closing, and all of a sudden he was out of a job. It's like, whoa, really? I mean...
So the question really, Geoff, although what Jim Carrey's saying is spot on, you can fail at doing something you don't want to do, so why not take a chance on doing what you love? How do people find out what they love? When they go through the education system, you got to get a job. You got to get a job, Geoff. They go through the education system. You got to get best qualifications, and everything is focused just getting out the other end and getting a job, which is why most of us go off on a tangent which totally detracts from our core essence, the key values that we have from a child all the way through our life, the things that light us up inside. So how do people get back on track and find the things that they love so that they can do what Jim Carrey's talking about?
Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to detach yourself from the outcome. The scenario that you painted right there, where it's, I have to go to a good college so I can get a good job, and I have to get a good job so I can earn a good living. You are attaching yourself to the outcome. Now, I'm not saying don't cast a vision. Don't cast big dreams. You absolutely need to do that. But the how, you need to let unfold a bit. And you can be hyper-focused on a certain income goal or a certain lifestyle you want to have, and then date your passions. Go out there and date your passions. Just be aware of what you enjoy doing, and try new experiences and see what comes to you. See what fills your soul. See what excites you. And ask yourself, as you're going through these things, is this something that I would wake up tomorrow and trade my life for? People always think, oh, I'm going to wake up and go to work. No. Time is your life. Your time is your most valuable asset. What are you waking up and trading your life for every single day? And I know that I'm still keeping it at a very 40,000 foot level because I can't tell you take step 1, 2, 3. But what I can tell you is that if you can identify what makes you happy, if you can be aware of what makes you feel good, and if you can just continue focusing on the things that make you feel good and be that curious person that gets out there and just tries new things and dates your passion. Once you find something that you're really passionate about and you go, you know what, I would love to figure out a way to make a ton of money cooking from home. For example, my wife loves cooking. She would love to find a way to cook from home. She doesn't know the how. She doesn't know how to make that transition. This is when it comes to surrounding yourself with the right people. Once you identify what it is that you want, then you need to go on a mission to surround yourself with people who specialize in that area, who can say, you know what? You can absolutely create a lifestyle based on doing that. And I know that because I've already done it. And I'm going to hold your hand and I'm going to show you how. And that's powerful. Does that make sense, David?
It makes total sense. Yeah, you're preaching to the converted here. One of the things that I'm a big one on is saying to people, have mini adventures. Try to break the routine that your life is holding you down with. And it can be really simple, like going into Starbucks and asking for a different coffee than you always do, or walking a slightly different direction to work, and just trying to do slightly different things and break free from those routines. Because I think a lot of the listeners and the world, I suppose, anyone out there finds their life dictated by routines, and they think, oh, I can't do that, it's not in me. Well, it is. You're just not allowing yourself to do it. The fact is, the big stuff is scary, but we can all walk a different way to work. We can all go up a different road just because we want to see what's up there. And it's that mindset. You're breaking down that mindset very, very subtly before you start going on to the bigger things. And it might be an evening class. It might be a different holiday than you might have done. Those kind of things are hugely important. Do you think, Geoff?
Yes, absolutely. And let me share with you how this has unfolded for me so you can kind of get a sense of what I'm talking about. So imagine you're in my shoes, where you are a professional salesman. And I'm at the point where I don't know what else I can go out and do if outside of a sales job where I could earn the type of income that I've been earning. I'm not an executive, so I can't go be a CEO of some major company and earn the same type of living. That's not on the table. So I decide I want to start building passive income. Real estate sounds interesting to me. So I just start surrounding myself with real estate investors. And I end up forming relationships with some really influential ones. I end up taking a partnership with some of them, and now I'm into real estate. But in that process, I realize, you know what? I don't want to be hunting and taking down deals. That's not what I want to trade my life for. I always want to be investing in real estate, but I don't want to be a managing partner. I don't want to be a principal. I just want to be a partner. Okay, well, check. We've dated that passion. Then I just start focusing on surrounding myself with the right people again. Just good people in my life. The whole time having this vision cast of the type of passive income that I want to have and the type of lifestyle that I want to be living. But I'm not attaching myself to that outcome. And the idea for the podcast comes up. I don't know how I'm going to monetize this thing, but I just lean into it. I start dating it. I try it out. It starts to grow. It starts to really help people. And this is filling my soul. This is really starting to resonate with me. Not to say that I want to be a professional podcaster forever, but I'm starting to see a path that feels right unfold in front of me. And it has to do with interacting with people and helping them change their lives. I don't know how this is going to manifest. I have no idea. I'm picking up the breadcrumbs along the way. I'm finding ways to monetize every day. And I just continue to lean into it. And the path just continues to unfold. And every day, I just feel like my life is becoming more and more enriched.
So the fascinating thing with you is, what element of it is playing to your authentic self? If we took you right back in time and talked to the tiny Geoff running around your back garden, whatever, what were the things that little Geoff liked doing? Were you very interested in people at that age? What kind of key values would you have had?
I was always outgoing. I was always an extrovert, and I always enjoyed being around people. But at the same time, as a kid, I was bullied. And I was made fun of. And, you know, when I look back to my childhood, I had a good childhood. You know, I had a very loving family. But when it came to being at school, I did not have a lot of friendships. I was not one of the cool kids. It was not a fun experience. I didn't feel good. And I remember going through the transition of trying to be like everyone else, trying to fit in. And that's painful when you're not confident in who you are as a person, when you don't want to be yourself, when you don't love yourself.
Where did that come from? Obviously, so many of us. I was actually fortunate. I got bullied once at school and smacked him really hard in the mouth. He went down and I never got bullied again. And I don't say violence, but I do say take a stand. And when you're at school, sometimes you do have to take a stand and you've got to prove to the bullies that you're not going to be bullied and then move on to someone else. Unfortunate, but that's how it works. Were you not that strong? Were you somebody that allowed yourself to be bullied? If you went back in time now, as we're going to do at the end of the show, would you operate in a different way, or was it always going to happen?
Well, not the challenge. I started studying martial arts when I was 5 years old, and I continued that all the way through the time I went to college. I got to a second-degree black belt, and part of martial arts is the discipline of understanding that you don't fight unless you absolutely have to. And so if I hadn't been in martial arts, I think I would have probably just popped the guy in the mouth. Yeah. But I understood that if I got into a fight at school, I was going to have a lot more challenges when I hit the dojo and my instructor found out that I had gotten into a fight. But there were times when it was almost unavoidable. And I never threw a strike, but I certainly was defensive. And when someone was chasing me, I would do a certain type of technique that threw them to the ground, and then I'd run away because I did not want to fight them. I didn't want to hurt them. I just wanted to disengage. If I had to go back, I don't know that I would have changed anything different because, frankly, it was that adversity in my early years that taught me to be resilient. That really built my character, that has served me so well now. I didn't fall into the cool kid crowd. I didn't just become a sheep and do whatever and get into a lot of trouble and activities that I shouldn't have been doing, like I find often happen when you're in the in crowd, because you don't want to break away. And so I was not afraid to break away and become my own self, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing now. I mean, none of my friends are doing this at this point. And so that breaking away, I think, is one of my greatest assets today.
So you look back on it, and although it was a black dot, now you're a long way past it. You actually go, no, that was a good dot. That was something that has taught me.
It was a black diamond.
I like the way you say that, because that's one of the things that comes up time and time again in Join Up Dots, and it's the real message that we try to get out to the listeners, that if you're in a situation which is bad and it's dreadful, there's something in it for you. There's a gift in it, and you've got to take action to get yourself out of it. You've got to move on, but you learn more from the dark times than you do the good times. Good times are great. Enjoy them. Love them. Walk around in the sunshine. Eat ice cream. But it's not going to teach you anything. But it's the black dots. That's the ones that really push you on. And when you see the successful people out there, the Dave Meltzers of the world, they would have had so many black dots in their life. They would have had so many black diamonds. But they've overcome them, and they've learnt from them, and they've moved on, and they've become stronger because of it. Do you see that when you talk to these guys, that actually they're pretty beaten up, but they keep on coming back?
That, number one, yes. And that was the thing that attracted me to Dave, because I was at a networking event and I heard Dave speak, and he's talking. Is it okay if I share the story? Because this is...
You go for it, yeah.
Yeah. So he's sharing his story of how at one point in time he was the CEO of the company that brought the first cell phone to the United States. He ended up partnering with Samsung to do this. And so he's the guy, he's the reason that we have mobile phones here in the US. Retires from Samsung by the age of 35. Multi-millionaire. Goes out, starts buying golf courses, commercial real estate buildings, just venture capital, just investing all his money. Then he ends up becoming the CEO of Lee Steinberg Entertainment, the sports agency Jerry Maguire was based on. And this is the largest sports agency in the world. He is running with all the A-list professional players. All the agents work for him. I mean, he is the guy. Got the McMansion. He's got the Ferraris, the Porsches. At this point in time, I want to say he was probably worth $50 million or more. But he started surrounding himself with the wrong people. He started getting into the wrong activities. And his life started to spiral out of control. And what ended up happening is he almost went bankrupt. He almost lost his family. He almost lost everything that meant something to him. And it wasn't until that moment when he hit rock bottom that he realized that he needed to rebuild himself. And he needed to rebuild himself based on two things: gratitude and empathy. You have to be grateful for what you have. You have to change the way you look at things so the things that you look at can change, and you can find gratitude in almost everything in your life. And when you feel gratitude, you cannot feel fear. When you are grateful, you can't help but feel good. And so he started to rebuild himself and kind of formed this spiritual side along with the business side and found a way to blend them together. How do you live a life of spirituality and at the same time live a life where you can thrive in business? And he's rebuilt himself to heights where way higher than he was before. And now he's back on top. And this was the moment when I knew that I had to start surrounding myself with good people. This was right at the beginning. And I just approached him hat in hand and said, your words have touched me so deeply, and I can't even explain to you what I'm going through. But I'm going through a transition and I need your help. Where do you live? I will come to you. Can we spend 20 minutes together? And it turns out he lives a half mile from my house. And that started a great relationship. But the thing is, Dave talks about gratitude. He is so grateful that he lost all his money. He is so grateful that he almost lost his family. Sounds crazy, right? But he's so grateful because he is where he is today because of it.
You've got to fight, haven't you? You've got to fight. And I'm going to play some words now by a fantastic fighter, fictional fighter, but these words are hugely powerful.
You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Are you aware of how hard you can be hit and keep moving forward, like Rocky said, Geoff?
Yes, absolutely. Although at the same time, I feel like life is going to deal me some blows that are way harder than I've ever experienced before. But like Rocky said, you got to keep moving forward.
Because I think those blows now just means that you're moving forward. It's just simply as that. I think if you're in your comfort zone, you literally, hardly have a punch at all. But when you go and you start trying stuff and move forward, that's when it gets rocky, to use his name. But that's when it gets a bit rough and you can't see the way forward and you're literally on your knees. And I don't think I've had one conversation with anyone on nearly 400 episodes of Join Up Dots where they haven't said at one time, I just crumbled. I was just on my knees thinking, I don't know what to do. I just can't see the way forward. But what they do is that they hold onto the ropes and they pull themselves up and they stabilize themselves and they look around and they think, right, let's go again, And that Rocky speech, it's fictional, but it is so hugely powerful, isn't it? Because everyone who has got out there has been hit down so hard, but they've got to get up again. And it doesn't surprise me that Dave Meltzer lost it. If you look at all the millionaires out there, most of them have lost it at some stage because they've kind of built it on shifting sand. And then they learn as they go how to actually stabilize it. And it's not until you get that stability, and more often than not, you find the stability in yourself and not outside, that's when things really start becoming good for you. And that's where you have paid your dues and you are where you should be. Do you see that?
100%. I love the way you put it. And let me offer a different perspective for you, the listeners, to consider when you get dealt one of those blows. Dave talks to me all the time about how you attract everything into your life. He believes that you're truly accountable when you're parked at a red light, and if a car comes and smashes into you in the back, in your rear end, that you say, what have I done to attract this into my life? Sounds pretty out there. And it sure did for me at first too. But if you can start looking at all the things that happen to you in your life as something that you have attracted, that you are ultimately accountable, then you start asking the question, why have I attracted this? Why did my income get slashed by 40%? What is the lesson here that I needed to learn by having my income cut so dramatically? And in that moment, when I asked that question, I realized my wife and I had become really frivolous with our money. We had started living a lavish lifestyle that we did not need to be living. It did not matter. We were focusing on all the wrong things. And it took our income being cut and us almost running out of money, literally to the point where our bank account is almost at zero, to realize what matters in life and to start focusing on the things that have mattered. And as soon as we made that switch and that realization, the tide started turning.
That's a great realization to have, because there's two ways of going about creating more money in your life. Either earning more money or not spending as much money, isn't it? And most of us can do the latter. We can look at it and go, right, okay, I'm paying that gym membership. When was the last time I went? Oh, I haven't been for the last year. Okay, cancel that. That big holiday. Yeah, we'll have a big holiday every year. Do we need 3 holidays? No, we can cancel those. And although it may be uncomfortable because you've become acclimatized to having those kind of things in your life, when you strip down and you get to the bare bones of what you have to pay each month, and I'm a great believer in this because this is how I've done this. I worked very hard for years and years and years to strip down all my bills and my outgoings so that when I did my slide of faith and transition from my full-time gig, I was allowing myself to take a big whack in my salary because I didn't actually need as much money. I only needed enough to pay the bills, and then everything from that on would be me moving forward and trying to find different ways of doing it. So you can look at it. Do I need a new job with X amount of stress that I'm not going to like, but it pays me 20 grand more each year? Or do I look at the way of doing the job that I'm doing that I like, but saving 20 grand that I'm frittering away?
Again, you have to, money, the focus on money, it's not where it's at. You can go out and survey all the people who have the most wealth in the world, and they'll tell you life is better with money. But that's not what matters. Sure, money accelerates your ability to do good in the world, but that's not, you're missing the boat if that's the decision. You've got to focus on what's going to make you happy and what's going to make you feel good. What are you willing to wake up every day and trade your life for? And if you don't feel like you're getting the good end of that deal right now, start focusing on surrounding yourself with people who are living a life that they're happy with. And see what comes into your life. I think you'll be amazed.
I think everyone will be amazed. Once you start doing stuff, it's just unbelievable. And it's not dramatic stuff. It's just stuff. And I say that all the time. Some days you go, yeah, I've really hit home now. I've done some amazing bits. Other days you kind of think, I don't know what I've really done. I've just kind of spent 8 hours doing stuff. But it all builds up. And we can prove that with the words that became the whole show that Steve Jobs said back in 2005, and we play on a daily basis. This is Steve.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college. But it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
So what's your big dot, Geoff? When you look back on your life so far, what is the dot where you think, yeah, that's kind of where it all started changing for me?
The big dot was that Jim Rohns quote. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And as soon as I started focusing, putting an intention on forming relationships and spending time with people who are already living the life that I want to be living, that's when everything changed. Everything.
And why were you right for it at that time? Because it's one of those phrases we hear constantly. You must have heard it 20, 30, 40 times leading up to that point. Can you remember why it hit home at that moment?
Because it was in that moment when my colleague has a stroke, my income gets cut, and I feel lost. I feel pain. And in that moment, you hear this quote and you think to yourself, I am the average of the 5 people I spend the most time with. And I am not happy where I am right now. Not to say that there's anything wrong with those 5 people. Let's be clear there. They're all still dear friends. They're all still in my life. The difference is when it comes to seeking counsel and advice on how to build a business on the side or how to build the lifestyle that I want to be living, I just simply ask those questions from the people who are already there.
And do those questions scare you anymore, or are you over that?
No, way over it. Way over it, because here's the difference. When you ask them from the right people, they're able to give you an answer and show you how to do it because they've already done it. So you feel like your hand is being held and like they're helping pull you forward. And all of a sudden you realize that you are moving fast. You're making incredible progress. And it's inspiring.
And is there any part of you that looks back and thinks, why didn't I ask first? Why didn't I do it 5 years previously?
No, because I believe that everything happens for a reason in the right way at the perfect time. And I believe you've all heard that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I just must not have been ready. And so finally the day came where I was ready and the message was delivered and I was ready to hear it and I was ready to take action on it. And that's the key, taking action. You all invest in David and you listen to this podcast. You probably listen to other podcasts and maybe even audiobooks. Knowledge without action is just data. Knowledge with action becomes power. So how much of what you're listening to are you taking action on? And be honest with yourself. What can you go out today based on what you're hearing in this episode or anything else you're going to listen to today and go take action on? This will fundamentally change your life if you can become an action taker.
Love that. Love that. Well, this is the end of the show, and this is the bit when we're going to send you back in time to have a one-on-one with your younger self. And if you could go back in time and speak to the young Geoff, what age would you choose and what advice would you give? Well, we're going to find out because I'm going to play the theme tune, and when it fades, you're up. This is the Sermon on the Mic.
Here we go with the best bit of the show, the Sermon on the Mic, the Sermon on the Mic.
Hey there, little Geoff. I'm talking to you when you are around 7 years old. And I know that right now you feel lost. I know that you don't feel like you fit in, that you're different. And I'm here to tell you, as your future self, that that's going to be your greatest asset. I know you don't see it right now, but if you can imagine this stage in your life like a puzzle piece, just one piece of that big puzzle. And while you can't see the entire image that is going to be cast of your entire life, I'm telling you that this piece matters and that everything else builds on it, because without it, there is no completeness. So learn to focus on what makes you feel good. Learn to care about others and love others. And learn to help people. Because if you can help people, you become a person of value. And when you are a person of value, the possibilities are truly endless. So just learn to stand in your own power. Be who you are and don't worry about what others think of you, because this ability to not care what others think and to do what feels right for you is what's going to propel you far past all these other people, and they'll probably work for you one day.
Geoff, how can our audience connect with you, sir?
The podcast is called The Mentee, MENTEE, and the website is menteepodcast.com. And for any of those of you out there who are wondering how you can go about upgrading your inner circle, how you can go about changing those 5 people, if you just go to www.menteepodcast.com/dots, and I have an action guide there. As I look back on the past year and a half, I realized there were 5 specific steps that I took to go out and meet my mentors. And I'd love to give that to you so that you can start taking action. And I wish you the best. And if there's anything I can do to help you in any way, you'll see on the website there's a contact tab. Fill it out. It comes directly to me. It doesn't go to my assistant. My passion is connecting with the people who want help. So if that's you, if this resonates with you, reach out to me, and I'll do whatever I can to be of contribution in your life.
We will have all the links on the show notes. Geoff, thank you so much for spending time with us today, joining up those dots. And please come back again when you have more dots to join up, because I do believe that by joining up the dots and connecting our past is the best way to build our futures. Geoff Wood, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Join Up Dots, brought to you exclusively by podcastersmastery.com, the only resource that shows you how to create a show, build an income, and still have time for the life that you love. Check out podcastersmastery.com now.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice that every successful entrepreneur practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.